everybody. Hopefully, my sound is doing a lot better than it was previously. I am Graham, also known as PS Gamer, and it is time for the Thursday morning map stream. It's been pretty wild this last little bit. Got a new computer, getting a bunch of stuff sorted out with it. Hopefully, everything's working well now. So, thumbs up for that. I just want to take a moment to send out a shout out to my Patreon and Coffee supporters for helping make all this possible. And that if you're not supporting me yet on Coffee or Patreon, please consider doing so. This is streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And you can catch me on any of those places. And the videos on demand, of course, are on Twitch and YouTube. So, let's have some fun. This is, I'm excited about this today. So just make sure I got my multi-stream chat turned on there so I can see everybody who's coming into chat. And let's get going. So yeah, it squared the map off last day. Let's see where we left off. Okay. All right, it's all coming back to me now. So, what I done last day was I squared off the map because squares tend to make people feel more comfortable, like it's a whole area. And I was going to be moving a bunch of this jazz up here, reworking this, adding some more stuff down here. Pardon me, and basically making it a really nice little operation, all said and done. So, yeah, there's the city that I built. Because there was no stamp for it. Because this is, like, there's a stamp for that, but no. Anyways, had that ramp. Yeah, it is hip to be square. Oh, hey, how's my sound? Am I louder? Is it working better? Because that was a whole operation the other day. Kind of want to leave the coastline intact. Good. It was. So I learned a valuable lesson about Windows 11, and that is it does not actually give you all of the menu options to fix things if you just go to settings. And so what I discovered was that my settings were at 100. I ended up having to call Microsoft support for it. My settings were all at 100. It should have been loud. It wasn't. And they ended up typing in like the little Windows search bar. What was it? MMSYS.CPL. And then they opened that window, and it opened up like the old like Windows 98 style window for actual for adjusting things, and suddenly everything could be adjusted. And like not even like a little bit of like all the settings, like all the old settings that I was used to using were available again. And I just could not believe it. Yeah. I was actually stunned. Like, I couldn't believe that somebody thought it was good. I'm just going to move that over there for a moment. I couldn't believe that somebody thought it was a good idea to make it so that people couldn't get into their own settings to adjust stuff. I'm going to redo all that. It was brutal. So hopefully my sound is a lot better now. It's adjusted so that where it counts now, it now acknowledges that I am at 100% volume. and then I added a 10 decibel boost to it. So hopefully I'm not quiet anymore. But yeah. And what a roller coaster of a few weeks it has been in the tabletop role-playing scene. Wow. Oh, don't want to move that. So like I'm a day late and a dollar short with this commentary, but you had the whole announcement that Wizards was doing away with their half races. Half elves and half orcs won't be in the new edition. And the way that they're doing it was they decided to go the route of go the route that was laid out in I forget which book it was. Is it Tash's Cauldron or so, I don't know. It was one of those filler books they've been putting out lately. Anyways, where the rule was that the rule presented was that you can have any mixed parentage your character that the player wants. You can do whatever, fill your boots, have a good time, but you can only have one parent. Basically, you would say if you wanted to play, say, a half elf, half orc, your character, basically you'd say, okay, my parents are elf and orc. Yeah, it's not a mechanic. It's like a dodge, almost. It's a way to avoid making mechanics. And basically so yes, you can have mixed ancestry, but if you want mixed ancestry, it's you pick one parent. They're the only parent that has genetics that matter, so they are the source of your character's everything. Oh, that's the wrong color too, and I need to find the right color. They're the source of your character's everything. Did I use? I must have used. Hey. Oh yeah, I did. Okay. They're the source of your character's everything, and your character's anything else your character has is just cosmetic. So, can you be a half elf, half orc? Absolutely, but you'll pick elf or orc, and that's pretty much your template. Oh, it's not even a coin flip. It's it's yeah. And I thought about it for a while, like why? Oh, Command Z. Just gonna lock that in place. I should probably lock this whole coastline in place. I spent long enough putting it together. The reason I think they did it the way they did it is because throughout Wizards' tenure, well, actually not even Wizards, like through like TSR and Wizards' existence, creating D&D. Does it skip a generation? Maybe. What's it? They have been allergic to creating rules like that, like rules for making what you might call like true mixed ancestry characters. And the reason for that, I think, is that the Wizards is still very much in a tournament and organized play mode. So when Wizards does something, or when they design rules, they design things with the idea that there's going to be organized play or tournament play involved in it. And so that translates into what we see all the time. which is a hesitancy to add any level of complexity that might make things a little bit tough at a tournament table or at an organized play table. So, for example, Fantasy Age has a fantastic mechanic in it for making mixed ancestry characters. Like, it's not perfect, and I wrote about this in my review of the game, because they're still doing that culture and like genetics conflation in their in the benefits of in their on their benefits tables. But basically, if say you want to make an elf in Fantasy Age, um, you roll twice on the table to find out what your benefits are. So it actually creates a situation where, yeah, there's differences between like not like there's some common abilities that all elves have, but then some other stuff is sort of like a random event, which I think is really cool. And then you get if you wanted to make a say that we'll go back to that half elf, half orc concept that I was talking about earlier. Then what happens is the player picks which side of the family is dominant, or which parent had like the dominant genetics for whatever went down. And so move that up a layer. They figure out, okay, like this parent had and they use that as the main template, but then they roll on this other table so that both parents matter, like both parents contribute, and you can end up with a fairly unique character as a result. And I think that a system like that is too much for Dungeons and Dragons to bear, because if they were to do that, it would interfere with ease of play in an organized environment. Because you could have someone show up who's like, okay, my character is part lizard, his dad was a lizard folk and his mom was an Aarakocra. And these are the abilities he got from each parent. And so I think that's why they did it. I don't agree with it. I think that it was a really weak decision to make. I don't see it adding benefit to the game. I haven't seen the new UA, so I'm not sure what's going on in it. But I'm sure that if it's going to complicate organized play, it'll be nerfed, scrubbed, or otherwise lessened to prevent that. All right. Well, yeah, that's my theory on why they did what they did. It sucks, and it definitely doesn't make for good gaming or storytelling, but it does make for easy everything else. And of course, as someone who's of mixed ancestry myself in the real world, I think it's a little bit disappointing that they went that route, because there's less stories can be done and explored. I'm also really wondering what they're going to do about lore, because they're allergic to new lore or dealing with things, but they also like have to shoehorn in everything they've ever created, and they don't want to do any retcons for anything. So, or like serious retcons or serious lore retcons to actually make it all work. So I'm curious as to how they're going to make things like Tanis Half-Elven from Dragonlance. How's he going to work? I mean, like I think he's dead in the context of their setting now, but was he an elf or was he a human under the new rules? So yeah, a whole bunch of nonsense like that's going to happen, and it's going to be terrible, I think, probably, because they don't want to do good work on that stuff. So yeah, that's a whole thing. This is looking good. I'm gonna hit the save button. I like that new position there. Pretty sure there used to be a dwarf. Oh right, yeah, I moved. I was gonna do something else. Hmm. Yeah. Then there's the whole Pinkerton thing, and that actually did surprise me because like Wizards, I know they are not fast on the uptake, um, but there's so many other ways they could have dealt with that situation that didn't involve what they did, um, and it's the reaction has been honestly like pretty predictable. The fans of Wizards products tend to be able to make anything okay as long as Wizards did it. And that's what it feels like's happening here. Like the move to try to rationalize why you would send a domestic intelligence and anti-union and security service, even if they're subcontracted to a dude's house to um, threaten them with like crippling fines and possible jail time for what even a rudimentary investigation would have revealed as as an honest error is just mind blowing to me. All right, let's go to the fit screen. Yeah, I'm liking that a lot better. Um, that moves more smoothly. So let's size 36. Open the catalog. I need a different building. That's a temple, really? I don't understand why this stuff is jungle. Like some of it, but like others, like really? I'm not sure I want to put that on there. Okay, just unlocked all my work locking things undone, so I can move these. Yeah, I saw that same meme, and yeah, yeah, similar reaction. I was like, yeah, that tracks. It's just so, like the bar is so low, like it's almost non-existent, but and it stunned me. Like literally, it actually stunned me. I could not believe after all the issues and problems and everything else that was had this year. Not only like this year, but like over the last few years, um, with their public image that they wouldn't think, hey, let's contact this guy, let's find out what happened, perhaps do some sort of basic investigation of the situation. Like, oh yeah, like, okay, you got this stuff. I mean, like, what's it say when Games Workshop has a better reaction to a leak than you do? Like, that's what it really comes down to for me, is like Games Workshop did a better job reacting to a leak than they did. And that is not good. Like Games Workshop has like been working overtime to tank so much of their community goodwill and other things like that. Like when they cracked after the Astartes videos released, and they cracked down on that stuff, and because they didn't want to be outdone by fan, like, quality of their work wasn't up to the quality of the fan work. Um, after all that stuff, and they have a major leak, and they're like, okay, yeah, leaks happen. Let's roll with it, and let's use this to punch it up, get things more excited, and then find out how the leak happened, so we can avoid it again in the future. Yeah, I there's just nowhere in my mind where it makes sense for them to have done that, like, at all. It's astonishing. Astonishing. Okay, and now I'm going to slap some. Let's see if we have some good rough looking ground. Rocky Barren Brown? Oh, yeah, that's nice. I like that. Then what I'll do is I'll come back with this one, lower the opacity, and create a gradient along there, and I'll do the same thing with the grass. Yeah, it just blows my mind that somebody there thought this was an appropriate reaction. And of course, what does blow my mind is the fan reaction. Some of it's sensible, but having fought for so long around race and racism and other issues in D&D, and watching the inevitable reactions that always got, which were like, just play the game, it's fun, just don't include it, all that sort of thing, it's not surprising to me. It's not surprising to me. There we go. Oh, that looks nice. Let's do that whole area up there like that. So up here it's fine. Like I can butt right up to those cliffs, but down here I want a little bit of a gradient onto the grass. You know, now it looks less like a political map and more like just like this is just a devastated area. All right. Now where are my evil trees? Well, first I'm going to select a tree. There we go, size 51. Shouldn't say evil trees. They're not really evil. They're just sort of dead. I am shocked though that they don't have. I don't even know what it's. I need to look up. I just keep seeing sequoia, and I don't know what that tree is. It's just so outside my realm of relative experience. Tumbleweed's an option. Okay. I need to flip a few of these. There we go. And here. Oh. Oh, damn it. There we go. So yeah, there's a way to leave notes on this for yourself. It's kind of handy, but if you're not using it and you accidentally throw one down, it's a little bit irritating. I wish there were more dead trees. That way I wouldn't have to do that. Just like flip them around and hope they're convincing. And like the number of skulls is kind of alarming. It's like each tree was planted with the skull of one human. Oh, why'd you do that? Oh, you know, ambience. Druids, man. Yeah. Yeah, when the party druid decides it's time to kick it old school. Oh, here we go. Dead trees. Okay, I need to get rid of all these weird ones. Turns out I was just looking for the I was looking in the wrong place for dead trees. They were there the whole time. Oh, Command Z. Leave that there. Is in core. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to use those bones. Oh yeah, I forgot there's floating islands. I'll make use of those later. Right now I need dead. There we go. Too dense. There we go. That looks proper evil now. That's got that wasteland vibe I was looking for. I'm going to throw some ruins down here. Save those changes. Always remember, save, save, save. So I mean, after all that Pinkerton and everything, all that other nonsense, overall, really happy with Fantasy Age. It was what I hoped it was going to be. It is a good sequel. Or not sequel, new edition. There we go. It really does a nice job. Oh, that's single. There we go. That seems too big. It was 51. So those runs there. What other runs we got? Those desert runs. Those shipwrecks is an option. There's all this abandoned stuff, but there's like such limits for ruins. Oh, they do have. There was a bunch of shipwrecks. Like there's 16 of them. Like they're pretty impressive. Like they're really nice. So they've got shipwrecks and that, but for some reason they don't have a lot of ruins or damaged stuff. There's a whole selection of pirate things. You've got like Viking settlement down here, but that's 51%. Jeez, look at the size of that. 36. Okay, so let's roll 36 here. 36. Okay. I like that better. That's good. Would not want to be living outside those walls, but, you know, they got to do what they got to do. Now I need to make this impassable. So I want to just skip over. So this is one of those challenges with designing a linear map, is that you have to use a lot of terrain features to funnel the characters around. Because you don't want them to be able to just skip from point to point. There we go. Now let's get some trees. There we go. Some low density forest around there. Oh. Let's fill that area up there. Okay, that's looking a lot better. Hit the save button. Let's do that same opacity trick there. Opacity. I can word. And then, what else is going? Oh yeah, lore. So I got a big cyberpunk analysis and lore post coming up. It should be up hopefully sometime at some point this week. Just a lot of information on it. So basically, what I did was I'm trying to, similar to what I did back when I was working with some of the funkier bits of like D&D lore, where I was looking to try to figure out like how to make it work or how to make it more functional. This has been more challenging though, because I'm trying to figure out how to make a whole bunch of trees ended up weird down here. How to make nomads make sense. And so like the first thing I had to do was I ended up like looking up census data for the U.S. to find out what the population was in 1996, or sorry, 94, because man, like their lore is complex. So it all kicks off within 1994, and what happens is the great stock market crash of '84, or sorry, of '94. Everything goes sideways hard, and the U.S. is unable to. So now I need to create a road that goes to that bridge that goes to there. How am I going to do that? Yeah, because that just creates like a single. This isn't the correct tool to use for that. That's more like a trail. That's more for like making a trail map. And I want to. So this one I have to cut through here. Yeah. Anyways, so it all starts in '94. The stock market crashes, and pretty much up to that point, it has very similar vibes to the situation that led to the 2008 real estate crash. A lot of bad investments, a lot of bad everything happening, and the average American was left holding the bag. And in the 2013, the original Cyberpunk 2013 stuff, it said that like 1/6 of the U.S. population was suddenly homeless. That's a lot of people. But then they upped the ante in 2020 and in subsequent books by saying that it was 1 in 4. It was fully 25% of the U.S. population was unhoused in a single year. And the general gist of it is like, yep, they were unhoused, and these people became nomads. There was riots, and this happened, and then suddenly nomads appeared, and they're just like traveling across the Americas in giant convoys, and like I understand the importance of it from a narrative perspective, but from a world building perspective, especially in a world like Cyberpunk, where there's that like kernel of potential reality that helps you suspend your disbelief for so much stuff. It just wasn't doing it for me. Like I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, but there's so many variables, and to have that many people suddenly like take to the roads in these giant convoys and stuff like that would literally destroy what was left of the U.S. economy. Like 100%, just like annihilate it. Pardon me. And the simple reason would be that no town, city, or anything else, so basically all the surviving infrastructure couldn't survive a mobile population that big. there just would not be sufficient resources to make it work. And so I started figuring out, or started thinking like, okay, like how could this be? Like, how could this future come to pass? Pretty much, and it was not easy. The what I ended up coming up with was, and these are all estimates, of course, but I basically broke the population down into three. So there were people who would go to find like friends or family and stay with them. So they definitely were not becoming nomads. Then there would be a population that there would be a population that would simply become squatters, like because like all this real estate's still there, and no one at the time has the security apparatus in order to keep everybody out. Pretty much, like it becomes a limitation on their side, and so I estimated a large number of them would become squatters. Probably staying in their own homes or around the same area, or like, what's it? What was it called? What do I call it? STO, settlement takeover. But that happens later. And yeah, and the reason that I hypothesized all that is that whenever people think about, like, oh, this group, 25% of the population is suddenly this, people tend to think like, oh, okay, it's going to be like the best part of the population that's suddenly having these issues. It's always like the young, the fit, all that sort of stuff. And I blame movies and media for that, because it's almost always what they portray. When in reality, like we're talking about vulnerable populations. We're talking about young families. We're talking about people who are taking care of sick family, elderly people, all that sort of stuff. All that mixes into it. And so I figured that a large number of this, not insignificant part of the population, never really became nomads to start with. They are sort of lumped in, just like as a media term, like, oh yeah, these people are nomads, regardless of whether or not it's actually accurate. And the reason I think that is because there's a lot of anti-nomad sentiment that you see, especially in 2027, or sorry, especially in 2077. Like when you watch like those little like infomercials about what happens when you leave, if you leave Night City and stuff, and it portrays nomads as like this dangerous population that's going to try to rob you or destroy you. So I'm trying to figure out how they transitioned, how that media portrayal developed, especially when in the game and elsewhere they work really hard to describe, like, to try to make nomads into this almost this heroic operation. That was the wrong color. Um, yeah. So I'm trying to reconcile all this information, differing narratives, and also like trying to parse out like what populations actually became nomads, which ones didn't, and how they all interacted with each other. And one thing I'm really finding is like the term nomad was way too loosely applied to like everything and everyone. Almost became a nomad. Like in the 2020 books, like the only prerequisite to be a nomad was not living in an apartment, pretty much. Um, and there's also some cultural aspects that I'm trying to deal with, which are challenging as well because there's a lot of what makes up nomads is their culture, not their actual not the chunks as a role. And so I'm trying to get I should probably hit the save button. I'm trying to get all that stuff in order as well. So it's yeah, it's challenging. It's coming together. I'm at something in nuts like like 1,200 words or something like that, um, and it's coming together. The problem is keeping it all on task because there's so much stuff to examine with them, especially like just moving away from the conventional nomads and getting into Metacorp, which is the lore states that they're a nomad nation, but they're not nomads. They're more like a successful libertarian revolution. Almost like it's really messed up. Like most people who've heard of Metacorp know it from like the 2077 cents, where they're a major provider of like manufacturing and stuff like that, or that's all they know if they've played the game, is that they're the weird nomads that have an island in the Gulf of Mexico, and that built the first like power armor suits, sort of thing. So it's really but they are terrifying. Like in a game of terrifying things, which I think is a fair description of Cyberpunk. Um, oh, they they're easily the most like one of the most terrifying groups that I've seen in the game. Not because they do bad things. Oh, yeah, terrifying. Yeah, like Cyberpunk itself is terrifying. Like you know what? I'm just gonna erase these trees, and I'll just plant some in place. That's gonna be easier. Put some trees in with the proper stamp height. There we go. But no, like they're worse. Like definitively worse. So Metacorp, if you're not familiar with it, they are a nominally a nomad nation, and they were founded by basically a disavowed special forces operator. Dude was in the second Central American War, and didn't find out that he'd been disavowed till like he basically got back to base one day. They're like, "Who are you? You're not on our books." Which, as we know, is always good for morale. Anyways, him and some buddies stole a bunch of stuff, hooked up with some similarly libertarian-minded compatriots, and took off. They end up creating an island out in the Gulf of Mexico that only has two laws. That's murder is illegal and slavery is illegal. Like that's it. Everything else is 100% go. And like from there, they end up like they create the first jack suits, like the first like power armor suits, um, and attract more and more people there. Yeah, just a few. Yeah, just a few. They attract more people to their island. Everything gets big. Everything gets huge, and then they get heavily involved in like um, building like port facilities and like that sort of thing. And they're listed as a nomad group, but they're not nomads. Like none of them are like they're literally they're not nomadic. Like there's no nomad in their names. Like they're there on their island, or they're contracting out to do construction. And like the way the island is described, it's just a free for all. Like it's the ultimate tax shelter because they don't have any tax laws, um, and like nothing there makes sense. For example, like their police force, like they have a police force, I guess, to enforce their two laws. That's like hyper well equipped. Like order is maintained. I'm like, but how? Um, so like that's a whole separate post I discovered. Was examining the libertarian nightmare that is Metacorp and its activities, because I'm trying to figure out like how they would possibly be able to stay relevant and functional with given everything else. And yeah, it got pretty grim pretty fast because like things like there's no limits on things like gambling, price gouging, money lending, or anything else like that. But they need a huge population of people to work to make money for the corporation. Um, and so I'm thinking that they probably make use of an extensive indentured servitude system, and that there's, well, nominally everybody there is like equal. I think that there's likely at least two classes of people, that being free citizens, and then there's a large indentured underclass that sort of like keeps everything going. Um, just because I couldn't figure out for the life of me like how else they could possibly make it work um, in that scenario. And I'm trying to figure out what their relationship with Night City would be, because obviously like Night City loves the labor and all that sort of stuff. But I'm trying to figure out like what would make Night City more attractive, because everybody's got buildings in both places. But what makes Night City more attractive than this other location? And ironically, I think that it's laws, because even though Night City is functionally an autonomous, independent city-state of the United States, so like the people there are still American, they're but they're not subject to a lot of America's stuff, like Noosa's stuff. Um, they have laws, lots of them, and they get enforced ish. Of course, there's always corruption. It's cyberpunk after all. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I've also hypothesized that there's probably some, if you wanted to introduce some a bit of a like horror aspect to the game. I think that there are, hit save button, in particularly in the United States. So this would be not just the United States. So this would be northern Mexico, the American Southwest, West, and maybe a little bit into the Midwest, just a little bit though. And then in the Canadian prairies, like the southern parts, of, like a few southern areas. I think that there are likely rusted out leaguers. So what a leaguer is, using army terms. So a leaguer, spelled Laager, and don't let anyone tell you different, um, is a vehicle formation used by armored units at the generally at the end of the day. So it's I should fill all those little gaps in there. Um, Generally, a leaguer is like a big square or rectangle that is formed in open terrain when there's no defense. Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's how you spell leaguer. It's a South African word. It came to us from the Boer War, the Boer Wars. Anyways, it's used in open terrain where there's no cover, and the idea is that you have all your armored vehicles form a box of steel around your support echelon, which is in the center. And it's like all guns out, and all the crews sleep on the inside of it, and it's a safety measure. In American context, it's like circling the wagons, sort of thing. Anyways, my theory is there's a bunch of those scattered around that are just full of skeletons, and I think it's from that the wasting plague. 'Cause there's a people often forget within cyberpunk lore that there was a massive pandemic in the early thousands that clocked millions of people dead, and those sorts of events always hit undocumented and transient populations worse than they hit ones that are in place, simply because those populations typically have less resources to draw on to try to deal with them. And so I think as the wasting plague inevitably hit these early, like these are like the earliest nomad populations, that eventually they would get to a point where there's too many people sick or too many people unwell to maintain operations. They just couldn't go, so they would inevitably settle down somewhere, circle up, form a leaguer, and then do their best with what medical facilities they had or medical capabilities they had, and hope that they would be able to fix the problem. And I don't think the problem got fixed a lot. So I think there's a lot of these early thousands things out there. And within later nomad culture in North America, I think that these are probably regarded, if you find one, they're probably seen as like unlucky. I think there's probably some serious like superstitions and like sort of like supernatural attributes that are applied to them. Not because they're not because they actually are, but because nomads, as time progresses, their rates of everything like oh how to put this, like I'm trying to basically they're losing knowledge, and so instead of seeing them like the first generation, this is the other thing I did, I broke them down into generations. So you're like generation 0 and 1 nomad populations. The 0, they understand what happened. They know that this is a wasting plague hit these people, they died, all that sort of stuff. However, as you go on, as the generations pass, things begin to become mythologized. And aiding in this mythologization is their loss of formal education and loss of scientific knowledge, and loss of that sort of information. And as they lose that, they need to explain why not to go near places and why not to do things, and so they begin to become progressively more, mythologized, because they can't really explain anymore. Like why exactly? Like why is this? Like, oh well, this was a plague site. What's plague? Well, obviously they know what plague is, but yeah, they're where's that tree? I want that yellowing trees. What is that? Let's just go to single. There we go. Yeah, so they're losing that sort of stuff, and that really got into like I'm looking at the culture of nomads and trying to figure out how that would develop, because they are legitimately a very interesting mix to me, um, because you have people basically inventing their own culture as they go along. Some of it's going to be adaptive. Other parts that are just going to get stolen wholesale from other sources, because people are opportunistic like that. Like we look for, has somebody else experienced this already? Or what can I take from their experience of it? Which is why I think that you start to see, because they honestly start to parallel a little bit, simultaneously, like the three influences I've identified so far in how North American nomad culture developed, was that there are um, indigenous outlaw motorcycle gang and Scottish um, influences on it for like their iconography, organization, and activities, and it's really weird. Um, well, that looks nice. It is an interesting combo, and I think it's one that came about. Like I don't know, because I'm still working on figuring out exactly where all the inspirations for nomads came from, because like my initial thought was that they were very clearly drawn from Mad Max, and they were. Um, like the Road Warrior, the new one and the original, like the latest one and the original, are listed as inspirations for the game. Um, like it's right there in black and white. So it's not even a question of there's no questioning it. You know they were influences, but there's choices in how they're organized, how they behave, the shadow economy they develop, all that sort of stuff, and how they organize themselves, by families, clans, and nations. that require a lot more time to develop than is implied by the game. Because the vibe in the game, at least the vibe that I got off of it, is that things basically went from 0 to 11. Like, one day, people were normal, sedentary citizens of the United States, you know, going to 7-Eleven and driving their cars and going to their boring jobs just like everybody else. And then, like, the next day they're homeless. And 6 months later, they are dressed in biker leathers and with Mad Max war paint on, driving a modified vehicle down the road with, the kids in the back, on practicing this on the speak and spell while, mom's on Overwatch up top with a rocket launcher. So, like, it's kind of discordant. Like, it doesn't track super well. And so that's why I'm trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And, like, just to be clear, like, I don't think that there's no place for nomads in the cyberpunk world. On the contrary, I think there absolutely is. It's just I think the way they were initially designed has become a legacy design problem for the team over at Artelsorian, in that they're trying to retain them at full time, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they lost, like the stereotypical American family, loses Sunday night football, soap operas, and the phone, gets into their station wagon, Road Warrior. Yeah. So yeah. So basically, yeah, that's how the jump was supposed to go. So it doesn't make sense to me, but that there is a large transient, effectively outlaw population does make sense to me. And I think there needs to be just a few more there needs to be some adjustments to the world to support it. Not just narratively, but logistically. And I also think that there needs to be a what's it? It's going to pause on my map earlier to get my thoughts in order. I also think that they need to. There needs to be a rejigging of how the USA, then new USA look. Because there needs to be pretty much what I'm envisioning is that you have, particularly in North America, and this does not apply to the rest of the world, because the rest of the world had a very different experience with everything than America did within the lore of the game. And the socioeconomic stresses that occurred in America that caused all these problems were somewhat or completely, or at least somewhat mitigated, not completely, but at least somewhat, or in some cases almost completely, mitigated elsewhere. So it doesn't make sense to me that there's nomads absolutely everywhere, because there's very specific things that caused them in North America. But North America in particular, what I envision, and I think it still matches more or less with the world of Cyberpunk, is that, as in the game, you've got a lot of wasteland. You've got biodiversity collapse and a whole bunch of other stuff happening, and massive climate issues. And this has been a thing since like day one, but tends to get overlooked because the main focus of the game is almost always on Night City. So I think there's a lot of wastelands and sort of like wasteland sort of territory, and what I would describe as scrub wilderness. And I think that you have a lot of not walled cities, but like close to situation. So I think that, pardon me, there are still a lot of there's still cities obviously like Philadelphia gets mentioned in 2077, for example. We know Washington D.C. still exists. We know that Vancouver and Seattle and stuff like that still exist as well. Um, but what I see them as they are closed cities, very similar to how Night City operates. Yes, they're under a national flag of the new USA or Canada or whatever, but they're not strictly open, like not like cities are today. And I see similar things as you work your way down until you start getting into um, what are basically wasteland settlements in North America, and these are small towns like the one in 2077 where the motel is, and there's all that action that happens there and stuff like that. Those are the closest you're going to find to what I think we would think of as like a normal town, where you can just drive in. And these are places that basically nomads have taken over and are now maintaining through force of will and force of arms. And if you get near any sort of a major settlement, I think that things are going to become very closed off very quickly because they're doing it to defend themselves against known threats. And I think that's where that shift comes in, because when you see obviously it's propaganda from Night City, talking about if you decide to go into the dangerous wastelands around the place, watch out for nomads, and it shows them being attacked by a nomad pack. And I think that comes from what we see in the game, where even the Aldecados, they are bandits. Like they're whatever the situation is around nomads, it has gotten so bad that they're no longer these major nations. Like they have bandit tendencies. So you have groups like the Aldecados who do targeted raids, like when they're after that Panzer, and like they go after very specific groups and targets. Or we have groups like the Raf and Shiv and the Wraiths who don't care. They're out there to get as much for themselves as possible. And so, like, anything that comes through a territory that seems like a viable target to them, it gets hit. And so, yeah, it's not safe outside of these cities. So it's a very medieval almost situation, and ties back into. I don't know. I need to see if I actually posted that article or if it's still in my drafts. It really reminds me of Rome, in that Night City is Rome in the game. Like all roads lead to Night City. And there you go. Like all roads lead to Night City. Night City is Rome in the thing, and which leaves me thinking like, what is Medikey? What are these other organizations to them? Yeah, I need to publish that one because it was a whole dive I did into like how Night City works, and how they've reinvented the patrician. Pardon me for a moment. Pardon me. How they've recreated the patricians um, of old by having, what are basically two classes of people. These are some very happy little trees today. So yeah, I've got to get that post done up too. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, and I got some Pathfinder stuff coming as well. But yeah, I've actually been talking a lot today on this stream. That's true, and I've added quite a few. Like I've spruced it up a bit with some of the fall trees, so it looks got a nice mixed deciduous so far. So I got some more up there. But I'm kind of glad we're coming up towards the end of the stream soon because I've been talking more or less constantly today. Lots of stuff to talk about and discuss, and going down a whole lore rabbit hole about some stuff about cyberpunk. So did it appear all the way? Yeah, it did. Good. Let's move this tree down here. Well, that tree's way too high. There we go. Nice. That save button. All right. So I think I'm going to call it for today. I've got a lot done. And I'm happy with this. I need to start thinking about the next move for this linear map. So what happened today? A lot. So the desert area stayed pretty much the same. No major changes there. This is the single biggest change. There was a linear adventure it needs to be linear, but it needs to make sense. So like there needs to be a logical progression, and you can't overcrowd it with major areas. And so what I did over here was I took that like purple fairy area. I'm gonna do that as like a sub area. So like I'm gonna create somewhere on this map. I still want to keep that. I want to have a little area like that, but it's going to be a side quest area, not a part of the main quest, because that was too many variables to add into it. Because we already have a lot going on. Likewise, settlements were too close. So it was like here, like event. Too much stuff was happening. So we now have a city fortress here. We have some ruins down here. I moved this entire thing, got moved up here and enhanced so that it communicates like how to get in more directly. I made the entire area breakaway, and I'll be working on some sort of bridge or something like that next day. Pardon me. So yeah, got ruins there. New. That's all new. So that's extended up because that was originally just sort of coming out like that. And I wanted to send a message. This whole place was kind of messed up. And I also got a little bit fancy with the brush tool, using different levels of opacity to create a gradient effect along the edge here to show, we've twice actually. So I've got it up here, coming from like this dark wastelandy stuff down into the into this like ravaged earth sort of area, then coming down again here into the grass. And then separating it, we have a hard border here separating it from the green areas across the way and the fortress city. With the forests, they were thickened and enhanced all over the place. And then I took some of the fall trees and scattered them through, which gives it a nice change of aesthetic. Like it's a purely visual thing that just makes it look nice. I'm going to be moving some more stuff around. I want to add another little side area. I want to maybe do something else in the desert here to give the desert area a little bit more of a purpose. And yeah, this is how it's looking right now. And I am pretty happy about it, all said and done. So I will be back. I will have to. Next week is going to be unusual because I've got some appointments and some stuff happening on both Monday and Tuesday. So what I will attempt to do is I think I'll come back for a Wednesday stream. See if I can work that out, and see if I can do like a Wednesday, Thursday, and get a lot sort of things done. And then the week after that, I will be away. I've got a job that I've got to go off and do, where I won't have computer access for a week. Happens. I will survive. But yeah, so there'll be nothing the week after next. And then I'm back. I'll probably be tired and a few pounds later, but that happens. Yeah, overall today, I'm very happy with how the map has progressed and developed. I'm going to do some stuff down here. No. I will not go Mad Max without my computer. Despite what some assumptions, what some world designers seem to think will happen, I will not go Mad Max without access to my technology. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, today. Unrealistic. I don't know. Maybe I will go Mad Max. We'll see how the exercise goes. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you all have a great day. Shout out again to my Patreon and Coffee supporters for helping make all this stuff possible. And please consider supporting me on Coffee and Patreon. This is streamed out live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And if you haven't liked and subscribed, please like and subscribe on those platforms. My name is Graham, also known as POC Gamer. I can be found on social media as POC Gamer. And I hope you all have a great day.